to play anything. I don't know. There's no musical. Oh, everybody's gonna sit down. Cool. He has trained you well. So who here is like a nobody? Alright. So here's the story about Dalton. So I'm the most boring guy. He calls me corporate white dude. And I'm like the most boring guy in the world to him. He says I'm just like the guys he sits next to on every airplane ride. But seriously, I have a real job, a day job. I'm in consulting. And about 9 years ago, I decided, a friend of mine said, you know what, we ought to open up a rock music school. And I didn't know what a rock music school was. But he came up with this idea to open one. He didn't even know anything about School of Rock. And then I was sitting in a hotel room in Kansas City in 2007, and I saw this article on CNBC about this thing called School of Rock. And I said, well, that sounds pretty cool. And that thing's the same thing that my friend was telling me about. So I just called my friend, I told him about it, and to make a long story longer, we opened our first School of Rock in Rochester, Michigan. And I actually started as just loaning him some money to do it. And then I went to the grand opening, I said, kids playing rock music, this is going to be like a train wreck. And I remember flying up there, and I was going up for a concert, and I was just blown away by the amazing talent of these amazing kids. I had no idea kids could play Led Zeppelin and the things that they did. And I flew back to Dallas, obsessing on the airplane, and I thought, I've got to open one of these in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so I called the CEO of School of Rock, and I said, does anybody own the rights to DFW? And they said, no. And I said, I want exclusive rights to Dallas-Fort Worth. And I negotiated on the phone there the exclusive rights to DFW. And the first thing you do when you buy the rights to a school is you got to go find a place. So I decided the first one was going to be right next to my house because I had an 11-year-old son, or a 10-year-old son that wanted to learn how to play the drums. So I opened my first school in Dallas in May of 2008. My son Jake was my first student, and then my 13th student was this little kid that had braces on, and he did not know how to play anything. He came in to take guitar lessons, and so he was just a very, very typical School of Rock kid. You know, he didn't like sports, he wasn't into sports, he really didn't feel like he fit in anywhere. I didn't know at the time about his bipolar or any of that. He just was like every, School of Rock kid that come through our doors. And our very first show was always Pink Floyd, The Wall. And so his mom and dad, and many of you probably know Kiva from the show or from the social media, and Fran, and I've been very close to their family, but he'll tell you that they would drive up to this place and it was like a black hole. They would just drop their kid off, and he never told them what he did inside that place, but that was his special place. So as long as he was having fun and he wanted to go back, that was good for them. And if you guys don't know, what we do is we teach instruments like guitar, bass, vocals, keyboards, drums, and then every 4 months we put on rock concerts. So 3 or 4 months rolls around, and Dalton tells his parents, we got a show at the House of Blues we're going to play. And his parents like, oh, show, that's kind of cool. Again, they really didn't know what he was doing inside there. They thought he was just taking guitar lessons. But what they didn't know is that we didn't have very many kids because we were a brand new school. There was only 15 kids in the school by the time we got to our first show. And every time, there was no singers. And some of you guys that own School of Rocks know this, that you get a lot of drummers, you get a lot of guitar players, and singers are hard to come by. But we need, to do a song, you gotta have singers, right? And we don't like to put the teachers on stage. So what was happening is every time there was a song that needed a singer, Dalton would raise his hand and say, I'll sing it. And so when they got to, now remind you, just remember, he's 11 years old, braces, and we played at the House of Blues, and I was there because my son was in the show. My son was a drummer, one of the 20 drummers in the show. And all of a sudden, the first, if you've seen Pink Floyd, The Wall, it's a very theatrical show, right? And immediately, the intro, and up pops this kid that just jumps up at the front, grabs the microphone, and there was probably 300 or 400 people because it was one of our first shows, and there was a big audience there, and he just absolutely commanded the stage from day one. And I always say he found his special place that moment. And what they didn't tell you on the show is the reason he went to School of Rock was because he was taking medication for his bipolar, and it was causing seizures. You girls, this is gonna make you cry, ready? The last seizure he ever had was the night before his first concert. And they really do credit him finding that love of music in School of Rock with what changed his life. And yeah, and it does. It changes a lot of kids' lives. So that's the story of how Dalton came along, and he would be really mad if I told you that, like, he and my son got to be pretty good friends, and then I always tease him that, he's not very cool with School Rock kids because we actually all went to see a Nickelback concert down in San Antonio. But seriously, the family has been super close. We're super close. Some of you know about his journey. He left us at about the age of 16, 17, went to this band called I Am 5. It was a sad day for us because we had to say goodbye to him, but that was a big deal because they literally started with a search with 30,000 kids around the world, and he was one of the ones that made it, and we were so proud of him. But then he was like a boomerang. You throw him out, and he really missed those rock roots, so he came back to us. But when he came back as a teacher. So he was teaching at our Dallas school, and he was teaching at our Rockwall school. So I own 27 schools across the country. And so I got in a big way because I love seeing what we do to these kids' lives. I really do. It's just amazing. And so he goes off, he comes back as a teacher, but then last year, about this time last year, he went on the Warped Tour. And he was living in a hot van, just blazing hot. And he had told his dad for 3 years, I'm not doing that stupid American Idol thing. Quit asking me to do that. And so his dad last year said, this is the final season. Are you sure you don't want to try out? And he said, does it have air conditioning? And he said, yes, it does. He said, I'll do it. And I remember his dad going to Little Rock. He texted me afterwards. He texted me a picture of the golden ticket. And I said, and I have the text, I said, he's going to make the top 10. And his dad tells me to this day, he said, you were the only one that said that. I said, no, I knew. I thought he was going to win it, but I knew he was in the top 10. So anyway, that's me killing a lot of time. You're very privileged because nobody else gets to hear me do all that talking. And I'm getting a lot of that out of the way now because sometimes when I introduce Dalton, I'll do a little bit of something. But when we get here, because it's late, I'm just going to come up here and say, Mr. Dalton Rapattoni, and then we'll let him get going because we don't want to keep the crowd. The last thing I do want to say is because we're going to be a lot later than we planned. Again, great music, but we're going to be later. I saw Guns N' Roses one time and they were 3 hours late, and it was worth it. So if you're plotting your strategy for the meet and greet, let me give you some clues. We were doing Pokemon last night, right? Yeah. So what's going to happen, and again, we've done like 30 of these, and I promise you it makes everything go faster. And I've heard people say it's awesome because I get to meet him twice. But the thing is that we're going to do autographs first, and then remember, it's a moment, not a minute, right? Everybody, just appreciate you can't tell him your life story as much as he cares. We just don't have that kind of time. So you just go up. If you want merchandise, I would take advantage of this extra time we have. Get a shirt, get whatever. If you don't want merchandise, he's going to have postcards with his likeness on it and all that, and he'll sign it. So we'll have something for you to sign, and then he'll have autographs, and then we'll do like a big loop, okay? And then once you get that, you'll come back and you get the back of the line. And then we switch and we just start doing pictures, and then it's just photograph. And all I ask is when you do pictures, please, there's good lighting back there. You shouldn't need a flash because that takes about 3 times longer when you have a flash. But if you have your phones unlocked, just be ready to go. We want to get people out of here at a reasonable time, and it's already going to be late. So we appreciate that. But what you'll do is we're gonna line up the side of this, okay, and then it'll wrap around, and you'll see a table and the step and repeat back. So all the way up and down this